So it's definitely no secret that I am a pretty big Bills fan. Um, grew up just a couple miles south of what was then, for a lot of that time, Rich Stadium. No relation, of course, at least I don't think there is. What's now Ralph Wilson Stadium, them having named it after Ralph Wilson, which is probably a good thing. Um, but yeah, I'm, how steeped I am in that. We had the misfortune of having Mike Mularkey as our head coach for a little bit, which, if you think about it, Mike Mularkey, it's a pretty unfortunate name for anyone to have. But I'm probably not the only one who had this experience, but it was a lot of years before I knew that that full of malarkey was an expression that existed before Mike Malarkey was a football coach. Um, I legitimately thought the term was based on how ineffective he was at coaching football during his time with the Bills because he was coaching us before I had ever encountered that term, and I had encountered references to that in relation to him and thought that was just kind of a coining a new term rather than referencing an old one. And you know how that stuff works. What was I going to talk about though? Tonight, good quarterback play, and I think that's what you ultimately really want. I mean, shoot, first game of week one of preseason. How much stake can you really put on that? Occasionally there's moments in preseason that are memorable. I have fond memories of. I remember Kyle Orton's rookie season and watching him play in preseason, seeing some real potential and seeing, hey, this guy might end up being a starter. This is a guy that might end up being in the league for a good 8 to 10 years, and he was. The Bears had to play the Hall of Fame game that year, so I saw him that night and I think a little bit later. Then again, I think I also watched a Pittsburgh Miami week one preseason game that year, and both teams looked sloppy as hell, but it didn't really matter because the Steelers, they were fine by week one and they went to the Super Bowl that year, I think. So all that is to say, don't put too much stake on what you would see on a night like tonight. But man, quarterback play. The Bills made smart decisions at that position, I think. Um, even looking at a guy like McCarron, um, he very easily could have been first round pick several years back. 2014. If I think I've actually got his rookie card from that year. And, just the way things happened to fall was that, look, he went to a team that liked him as a backup and wanted him to be their backup, and so didn't really get any real shots at starting. And then a team tried to trade for him to maybe make him a starter and just blundered, the paperwork or whatever happened there with that potential, Cincinnati Cleveland trade. So who knows? But if you liked McCarron coming out of college, there's absolutely nothing that has happened to make you second guess that. if you thought he was a potential NFL starter coming out of college, nothing's really happened to make you second guess that. He even had a pretty good second half in the playoffs against Pittsburgh. And everyone will forget that because it was, it was the Bengals and they did what they do in a big game like that. Still found a way to lose, but I haven't even given up on Peterman either. They liked what he did last year in training camp and preseason. They thought he knew the playbook really well. Still a mistake to throw him into the starting role against San Diego's defense. Probably, but I don't give up on a guy after one thing like that. And of course, got Josh Allen. He's the guy everybody would like to be the future of the team. And I never bothered to rank the Q prospects, but just based on what you saw from Allen tonight, I think there's a lot more to like and dislike. So a lot more to like than to dislike. So the Bills, I like what they got going for them this season. In some ways, I think things are pretty fortunate insofar as there's a certain reoccurring pattern whereby teams rise unexpectedly to a 9 or 10 or 11 win season, and then the expectations for them soar, and then things usually the season after that's going to be a little bit of a letdown. It's going to be like an 8-8 or a 7-9 or something, because that's just how it happens. And sometimes teams take the wrong lesson from that, and that they give up on the coach too early, and so you get this really strange scenario. I mean, you look at 2016, Ben McAdoo with the Giants, Dirk Cutter with the Buccaneers, Adam Gase with the Dolphins. All first-year head coaches, all led their teams to winning records. 2 of them made the playoffs. And what happens? In their second year, all 3 of them have very disappointing seasons. One of them gets fired, the other 2 very much on the hot seat. And coach combo, I think this is the right thing for them going forward. And the fact that the expectations for them are so low is probably a good thing, because fire them if they don't go 10-6 or something like that. And I think that's where we're situated. I think we could have a worse record than last year and still be better than a lot of people expected, and still keep everything in place as far as, coach, GM, and all that. No need to clean house or anything. Yeah. Continuity is important. It's really important. It's like you actually look at the Jets this last season. I think they did what they needed to do, because they really didn't win that many games when it's all said and done, but because they were expected, the kind of team that might actually go 0-16, and they actually won like 5 or whatever it was, and they were in almost every game. They were in it late against the Chiefs. They were in it late against the Panthers. And they really, really close against New England the first time. It's like they did what they needed to do. They kept Todd Bowles around, and I think for them, he is based on everything we've seen from him, he's the right guy for the Jets to keep at the each seat position. And so last season was a success insofar as they proved that the basic nucleus they've got there is the right thing going forward. We can, even in a disastrous season, hold together well enough. And I think that's what the Bills need to do this season. They need to show that they've got this stuff, whatever that means in the way of record. And hopefully that's a really good record. Hopefully that means making the playoffs, but it's easy to stake too much on one season, you know. Or what John Gruden says, you know, the difference between 6-10 and 10-6 is about 6 plays. You gotta keep that in mind too. But I'm excited. I'm excited for these guys. I'm excited to watch the Bills play.